Last movie I got is She Rides Shotgun by Nick Rowland. Nathan in this is played by Taron Egerton, which has been in a lot of stuff lately. In fact, he's in a series right now on Apple TV Plus, which I was going to review this week. I might wait till next week. It's on about 7 or 8 episodes so far. I think it might have 1 or 2 more to go. I would highly recommend it so far. I can talk more about that later, but Taron Egerton's been doing some really interesting stuff lately. I think I'm really starting to vibe with him as an actor. He, of course, did, what did he do? The Kingsman movies. I think he did Eddie the Eagle, if I remember correctly. He's been in quite a few things. One of those guys that's just slowly building up a pretty good repertoire. Anyway, Nathan, Taron Egerton, Ollie, played by Anna Sophia Heger, and Detective Park, played by Rob Yang, and a bunch of other people. This has a great hook at the beginning. The hook is, you got this little girl, Polly, outside of school, waiting for her mom to come pick her up. In fact, it's one of those things where she's waiting and everyone's kind of left, and this teacher comes out and says, hey, is your mom here yet? What's going on, Polly? And Polly's, oh, it's fine. I'm waiting a little longer. It'll be good. Ramshackled car speeds up, pulls up, and she starts walking towards the car. A man gets out, and that's Nathan, and his head's almost shaved. He looks like he has facial tattoos. There's a lot of signifiers that he's living a pretty rough lifestyle. You're not sure what's going on exactly. And the first thing the girl says to him is, are you allowed to be here? And you're like, what's going on here? And then you can see, you get the feeling like, oh, is he just recently out of prison? And is this car stolen? And he convinces her to get into the car. And then the next thing I think she says is, did you hurt mom? And you're like, whoa, what's going on here? And immediately you become embroiled into a fugitive movie. And I was invested right out of the gate in this. This is a great concept. Obviously, something's happened to her mom. He may have been the one who did it, very likely the one who did it. I'm not sure at that point. Did he escape from prison? Or is he just supposed to stay away from the family? Or are they just estranged? What's the deal? You can tell he's definitely not probably the best dad in the world. And you feel like immediately you're probably in a fugitive movie. You're on the run. And very quickly, I think they end up at a hotel, and she sees a news report that says that her mom and her mom's boyfriend have been murdered, double homicide, and that Nathan is the suspect. And of course, she's freaking out. And now you're like, oh my gosh, this little girl's now stuck with this guy, and he's a murderer, and what's his plans for her? And of course, you're wondering, like, is that going to be the case, or is not going to be the case? And the whole movie then becomes a bit of a road movie, a bit of a crime thriller, because there's this whole subplot about this Aryan Brotherhood kind of group that kind of runs the drug trade down there in New Mexico. I think they're like near Albuquerque, which kind of feels Breaking Bad-esque. But this kind of Aryan Brotherhood kind of group called, what are they called? I want to say Blue Steel. It bothered me. Aryan Steel is what they're called. And he's on the run from them, and then maybe they're the ones that killed the mom, or maybe he's the one that killed the mom. There's a lot of stuff like that going on, and the little girl's constantly not sure if she should try to escape from her dad, or if he's going to actually be protecting her. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. The music is a problem, because at the gate, the music's very kind of heartwarming and loving. So I think the music is trying to tell us that, like, he's a good guy, and that them getting together and being together is a good thing and something we should root for. And I don't think in a lot of ways that is justified by what we see from him. And that's one of the big problems I have with this movie. But before I get into one of my big problems with this movie that I don't think Erik shares, another problem that I think he does share with me is that for a movie that starts out really strong, it gets worse and worse as it goes. And that's a problem. It's much better if a movie starts out like you don't know what's going on, or it's weak, or you're not really engaged, and it gets better, and by the end you're just like, wow, this was a great movie. You don't want the movie to do the opposite. And unfortunately, this movie, to me, does the opposite. So kind of gave you that opening scenario and the opening kind of basic situation. Dad, daughter on the run, murder, fugitives, cops after them, evil Aryans after them. That's a pretty good action, crime thriller setup. And the first half of that movie, I think, plays like that and is really good, has good tension. The little girl, Anna Sophie Heger, is a fantastic actor. She's really showing the fear and the how upset she is in the situation. Sadness over hearing her mom has been murdered. A lot of stuff going on right there. And then the middle part, it becomes a little more generic action movie. I'm not going to say all the events, of course. And by the final third, it becomes ludicrous. The turns it takes to the final act start to really stretch and I think break the ability to believe and to be invested in what's going on. And it starts to become to the point where I think, I know myself, and I think Erik would agree with me on this, it gets to a point where you're like, why do they even do what they're doing in the final act? I don't even understand why the police were doing what they were doing in the final act, or why Nathan's character is doing what he's doing in the final act, how the kid is running around during that final act involved in certain things. I know I'm being vague, but I don't want to ruin it if you want to watch it. And it went from being like a really promising, gritty thriller to that's going to be kind of generic, okay, trashy thriller. I'd still be enjoying it, like a 2.5, 3-star level, to a pretty terrible thriller by the end. And I would still probably be like 2.5 or 2 stars, except for the other thing that really bothered me, which I don't think bothered Erik. And that is, the whole point of She Rides Shotgun is that this girl is stuck in this plight. I get that. And I know that putting a kid in danger in these kind of movies, like even something as famous as Aliens, is a kind of a time-honored tradition to give us extra emotional heft or to give us something to root for. But I personally feel like this movie would have been a stronger, kind of a B grade, just a straight up crime thriller if the girl hadn't been there. And why do I say that? Because I feel like super manipulated by the girl being there. It's almost like she's in there like you would put a dog or a puppy in a movie just to have us be emotionally mad when that dog or puppy dies. And I'm not saying that her girl character dies in here, but she's there just for cheap emotional appeal. And on top of that, there's a real cynical element to it, which I didn't like for the Polly character, is that when I'm watching it, I'm like, I'm supposed to sympathize with her and ultimately Nathan, but Polly is being abused by him in so many ways. And I don't mean that he's intentionally hurting her or anything, but I mean that all of these things that are happening to her are directly or indirectly his cause. And that has to be addressed in this movie in some way for us to stay on board. And you're just always watching her life just crushing her, and emotionally her character is being torn apart. And no matter how this movie ends up, I'm not going to say how it ends up, but no matter how it ends up, at the end of the day, she's going to be a broken person. As an 8-year-old, what she goes through is going to break her. And unfortunately, they show her getting broken a lot too. They show her just crying and just in extreme distress throughout the movie, to the point that and I know Erik did not agree with me on this, but I started worrying about the actor. I was like, why is this little girl actor being put through this much emotional distress? Because she's doing a great job, but it feels like just going through that as an actor and having to portray that is probably dramatic on top of that. What do they tell? Imagine your own mom getting killed or something terrible like that to get her to that point. I just started feeling bad. Every time I saw her going through another terrible thing, I felt bad for her character, and I felt bad for the human being playing the character. And it just really pulled me out of the movie to the point that I started getting angry with the movie. I want this movie just to be a stupid, fun thriller, and it's making me feel terrible because this girl is just being ripped through her life in a horrible way. And it's like, that's the point of the movie. I don't really think so. Is she being shown to understand something that she never understood about life because of this, other than people are terrible? Not really. Is there a redemption arc for her dad? Does her dad maybe think he's a great guy and is finally discovering he's not a great guy? I don't think you really see that much in here. I don't know, you come up with some other redemption arcs or lessons that we're supposed to learn, and I don't think it's sufficient. And I think that's told directly by something like the final moments of this movie. There's a final little coda on this movie over a song by Churches, which I like Churches, but over a song by Churches. And I was watching that and I was like, what are we getting from this? Her life is destroyed and it's terrible. I feel terrible. So this movie angered me. That's what I'm getting at. That's the bottom line here. It went from I just didn't like it. That's usually when I'm 2 and 2.5 stars, to when a movie angers me. When a movie angers me, I go lower because I'm actually mad that I spent time with it. And I'm going to go 1 star. 1 star. Not a 1-star banger. 1-star banger means it's terrible, but it's hilariously terrible. No, this is just terrible. She Rides Shotgun gets 1 star. Boo, writer. Whoever wrote this, bad. I didn't look it up. Bad. The direction is competent and fine. This person that directed it could make a very good action movie, but it needs a good script, and this does not have a good script.